Jai Paramangsa Paribhajagacharya Sutradesha Smavati Bhakti Saraswati Goswami Bhagavati Jai Anantapuri Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivachari Gaur Bhakti Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Moh Gopinath Sam Khund Radha Khund Giri Vajan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Dwarka Dham Ki Jai Swami Bhaktivind Ki Jai All glories to Jasmine. All glories to Jasmine. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All brothers to David Guru Sri Prabhupada. All brothers are revered speaker for today, Grace KATHAMISA Devi, and all brothers are some of Vaishnavi devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here. As always, today is Friday, the last day of the busy working week. And we have Grace speaking to us all the way from Sri Vrindavan. So, Father KATHAMISA, thank you so much for doing this amazing service for us. So, without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to have all of your association. Should I start, or I'm waiting for you to put it on?
Yes, you may start. I'm going to put it on the screen.
Okay. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasan Tato Jayamudirayet Nasya Payasu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Utmasloke Bhakti Bhavatir Naistaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So tonight we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 7, and the chapter is entitled Further Inquiries by Vidura. So we all should be familiar with Vidura, who had a big part in helping the Pandavas when they were in difficulties because of the Duryodhana and his cronies and his father Dhritarashtra. And then anyway, there's a whole history about Vidura and how he was born and how he came to be born. So I'll just proceed with the text for today, which is text 4. And I'll read the Sanskrit, and the translation and purports are by His Very Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. And I want to offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, my eternal father, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shamari Bhakti Tirtha Swamtamane. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashitamane. Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Swamtamane. Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayatma Mayaya Tavasam Stapatya Chetad Bhuya Pratya Pirashati Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayatma Mayaya Taya Samstapya Yachetad Bhuya Pratya Pirashati Aswachid Bhagavan Vishram Gunamayat Mamaya Taya Samsapya Yade Tad Bhuya Pratya Pirashati. And the word for word, Aswakshit, cause to create. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vishram, the universe. Guna Maya, endowed with three modes of material nature. Atma, self. Mayaya, by the potency. Taya, by her. Samstapayati, maintains. Etat, all these. Bhuyaha, then again. Pratyapidashati, conversely dissolves also. Translation. By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains a creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Purport. This cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away by the illusory thought of becoming one with him by imitation. The three modes of material nature are for the further bewilderment of the conditioned souls. The conditioned living entity, bewildered by the illusory energy, considers himself as part of the material creation due to forgetfulness of his spiritual identity, and thus he becomes entangled in material activities, life after life. This material world is not for the purpose of the Lord himself, but is for the conditioned souls who wanted to be controllers due to misuse of their God-gifted minute independence. Thus, the conditioned souls are subjected to repeated birth and death. Om Gana Timaranda Shah Gana Gana Salakaya Taksumali Tamyena Tasmai Shiga Vemaha Mukam Kotiva Talam Gam Gamnade Yerim Yak Pipatang Bande Shigaram Dina Taranam. Okay, what I would like to do first, and it's also for myself so I can uh, recall the flow of how we got to these further inquiries by Vidura. Vidura is a great devotee. So I'll just give a little synopsis. So first, in the past chapters, I think it's chapter 2 or maybe before then, Vidura has met Maitreya Muni, who had just heard Krishna speaking to Uddhava. And Krishna was speaking to Uddhava, and the title of the conversation is called the Uddhava Gita, just like we have the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking with Arjuna. In this one, he's speaking to Uddhava in a different context. So then after that conversation, then Krishna left. So then next, subsequently, Vidura met Uddhava. And if you've been following the classes, then several chapters, there's a dialogue between Vidura and Uddhava. Then next, then Uddhava left. And he left because Krishna had given him some service. He gave him seva. He told him he was to go to Bhadarik Ashram and give Krishna's association to Naranarayan Rishi and to the devotees there. And he was supposed to deliver Krishna's message. So Krishna he was supposed to go there, but he didn't get there. So that's why he sent Uddhava, just like he has sent Uddhava later on to deliver a message to the gopis. So he wanted Uddhava to deliver a message to these devotees at Badarik Ashram. So after having an ecstatic kirtan, then Uddhava left Badarik Ashram. So then Vidura, he then went looking for, and he found Maitreya Muni. So after Maitreya Muni presents everything in terms of the questions, because there were previous questions by Vidura, then Vidura had further inquiries, which is what this chapter is about. So one of the questions we can remember, if we've read Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, the 6 questions by the sages who were meeting at that time to hear Sukadeva Goswami. So one of the questions one of the 6 questions that was asked was about the Lord's creations, his activities, and his Vishnu form. And then this question that had been asked in the beginning in Canto 1, as I mentioned, this was answered in chapter 2 and some of the beginning of chapter 3. And they wanted to know what was Krishna's activities. And so the title, I think, of one of the chapters may be in chapter 2. I'm not recalling right now, but it was about the Purusha avatars. And so they wanted to know, describe what are the activities of the Lord as he enters into the creative realms. And so here in this one that we're reading today, I'll kind of review the previous text as well, because they're a little bit connected here. In fact, they're all connected. Because this one I'll just review a little bit in text 3, is talking about Krishna, how he expands himself by his energies in the multi forms of self-expansions and his separated expansions as well. And it's saying here, since there's no other existence besides the Lord himself, the Lord's association with anything manifests his association with himself. And when I was reading this, I was actually thinking that this is the reason we should see even the material world as everything is Krishna. All of it is his creation. Whatever we see, everything has been created by the Lord through his expanded energies. Because, there's an impersonal aspect of the Lord and there's a personal aspect. In fact, if we remember in Bhagavad Gita, I think it's chapter 11, that Krishna showed Arjuna his impersonal form, the universal form. That's his impersonal form. And at the end of this previous verse, also text 3, it says here that the complete manifestation of the cosmic situation is an expansion of the Lord himself in his impersonal feature. And it says that all things are situated in him only, yet he's not in them. That is the opulence of the Lord's attachment and detachment. He's attached to everything, yet he's detached from all. And it may sound contradictory, but it's not really contradictory because the Lord is the supreme controller. He can do anything. He can do anything. So when Arjuna was bewildered by that form, he was such a friend with Krishna that he got bewildered and he became a little bit afraid, and he please asked Krishna to please go back to the form that I'm familiar with, the form that I know, because that huge form was bewildering to him. And I've heard the example given in some classes. If the Lord is in his universal form, how can we actually dress him? Because we are understanding the personal form of the Lord with which we have interactions. And this is coming from the mercy of the spiritual master. So someone said, so how can we even dress the universal form? How would we even, you know, that's not even possible? And the example given by Srila Prabhupada in terms of the impersonal form, how Krishna is one and different, the same and different. It's like the sun. We can be in a room and we can be feeling the hot rays of the sun, or we can see the hot rays of the sun, especially here in Vrindavan in the summertime. But but yet the sun, he's a person, he's a personality, but we're only getting the rays of the sun. That's his impersonal aspect. We know that Surya is the demigod of the sun. He's the sun. So we are getting the impersonal aspect. Also, when the sun rays comes down, it it and also let me backtrack. The Mayavadis, right, or the impersonalists don't understand that Krishna has a form. They think that he's like us, that he's affected by his material energy when he comes to be with his associate with his devotees and to take care of the miscreants, which is discussed also in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is what they think, that Krishna is like us. And actually, I read where it said that I heard a lecture today that said, so they think he's just in the mode of goodness, but that he's like us. That's how we want to be one with the God. We don't want to give him his supreme position. Because even before I came into this movement, the people that I was with, or that I was associating with, they were always saying, "Oh, we're all God. We have God within us. That we're like God. We're all like gods. We're little gods, you know." But that's not so, which we know. But everyone else who's not understanding about Krishna's activities are in Maya, deeply in Maya. It says, okay, so to come to the verse today, he's saying that this cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away by the illusory thought of becoming one with him by imitation. So because we want to enjoy, we want to take his position. I have to skip back to the point I was making about the sun. Also, the sun can dry up, the rays of the sun can dry up urine in the urinals, or they can dry up stool, but that doesn't contaminate the sun. So the same way that Krishna can interact with his material energy and not be affected at all, it says he's nirguna. He's not affected by the material energy whatsoever. So the three modes of material nature are for our further bewilderment. It says in chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's 14, Devi, Esha, Gunamayi, Mama Maya, Dharatyaya, that the energy of the Lord as Maya is very, very strong. We cannot overcome it. We only have two choices. We can either dance to Maya's music, or we can dance to Krishna's flute. We have two choices. And also in the verse, I don't know, I think it's Bhagavad Gita 9:11, which says, "Fools deride me when I perform my activities in a so-called human body when I come to the earth, because they don't know." I mean, in Hastinapur, when he was moving amongst the Yadus and the Kauravas, very few knew him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, we know that Dorotna and his crew, of course, most of them, they also treated him like even less than an ordinary person, in fact. Because when Krishna came to the assembly of Dorona and his father, Dhritarashtra, he came as a Purohit. He came to try to avoid the war and try to talk some sense into Dhritarashtra. But when he was trying to do that, of course, Dorona got really disturbed. And and Krishna had asked for just the 5 villages, at least let them have, because the Pandavas were Kshatriyas, so they have to have some place to rule. So Krishna was trying to ask Dhritarashtra, like, okay, at least give them 5 villages. They have to rule. They have to have some place to rule. They're Kshatriyas. Yudhisthira, is very elevated. They need to have some place to rule. But then Drona got really upset because of his intense envy of the Pandavas and his actually dislike, just put it mildly, particularly of Arjuna and Bhima, but actually all of them, because they threatened his ambitions, which he picked up from his father, Dhritarashtra. But then he stood up. Instead of Dhritarashtra saying anything, Duryodhana stood up and said he wasn't going to give the Pandavas as much as a piece of land that fit on the top head of a pin, even like a safety pin. We can use that as an example. And then had nerve to try to arrest, said he was going to arrest Krishna if he tried to do anything funny. So then Krishna manifested. It's stated in the scriptures, it wasn't in the same manner as when he exhibited on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but he did manifest a universal form. No. And even after he did that, still Duryodhana wasn't accepting him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he was blinded by his envy. When you're blinded by envy, your eyes are colored. Usually the color green is associated with envy. So he was just green all over. We're studying this, we're hearing this too in the classes that we're having recently. But this one has to do with Shishupal, who also was envious that Krishna had been picked as the most worshipable person in that assembly. So because of Duryodhana's envy, and he couldn't understand the position of Krishna, then he got defeated. He had his thigh broken. He got defeated. And he was envious of when Duryodhana went to visit them after they had their I guess you can call it a palace, but it was more than a palace that was built by I forget the person's name, the demigod's name. I don't know if it's down about it. No, I can't remember the name. But when Duryodhana went to go through
Vishwakarma.
to look at the Hare Krishna.
Vishwakarma.
Was that? Thank you. Yes. When he went, he was humiliated because he thought it was such a mystic place that what he thought was solid ground was water, and what he thought was something you could open, he would walk through. So and Krista didn't stop particularly the ladies in Draupadi from laughing. Yudhisthira wanted them to stop, but Krishna was, let them be, let them, it was like let the rodent be humiliated, you know. So that fueled his anger, that fueled his jealousy, that the opulence. And we know that even, here, you cannot go to the spiritual world if you're full of envy. That's one thing you cannot go to, that won't be excused. We have to get rid of our enviousness. Even if we have whatever we have in terms of enviousness, we can see that it manifests itself. So even if we have just a little bit of envy, we won't get to the spiritual world at all. So to further talk about this also, so how can we as devotees understand Krishna's activities? How are we to understand it? But we have been fortunate enough, we have been fortunate enough to be in touch with a pure devotee. This is how we get the knowledge. And then when we have surrendered to a pure devotee, to our spiritual master, we've obtained a spiritual master, not through our own deservedness, but because of Krishna's causeless mercy upon us, that we have the shelter of a pure devotee. So, and he's engaging us in devotional service. So by devotional service is a way we can get knowledge about Krishna's personal aspect and his impersonal aspect. And we want the personal aspect because then we are privileged to be able to serve the Lord. We get the opportunity to serve the Lord, offer our services. And this way we can understand Krishna as a person. We make clothes for him. We serve him, Prasad Boga. We serve him to understand our actual position, our eternal actual position. And so it says here that Krishna, first it says, the conditioned living entity bewildered by the illusionary energy considers himself a part of material creation due to forgetfulness of his spiritual identity, and thus he becomes entangled in material activities, life after life. So we think that we're this material body. And being in a material body brings so much difficulties, especially when you get older. I'm experiencing it. And then you're like, yes, this material body is just a nuisance. It's a problem. I mean, when you're healthy, you can feel like, okay, I can manage. But as your body ages, and the body is doing what it's supposed to do. It's material. Everything in the material world, everything that's material deteriorates. And I always give the example of a car that you take off the lot. It could be a new car, but the minute you take it off the lot, it's depreciates, which means it's losing its value. The only value to this material body is put it in service. But still, it's going to do what it has to do, what it's meant to do. So we know with the car, after you drive it for some time, you have to start taking care of some parts of it that break down, or get something repaired, or keep it going with oil and gas. And then at some point, you put so much money into it, you're like, I need to get a new one because this is not working. So we're a machine. The body is a machine, and it's going to dwindle. It's going to go away. It's going to break down, and you're not going to be able to fix it. The only way to fix it is to obtain your eternal body, to obtain your eternal body and understand your relationship in terms of servitorship with the Lord and be happy about it. And also, we need to read. We need to read every day. We need to hear every day. As much as we hear anything else, we need to hear about the Lord. We need to hear about his abode. We need to hear about the spiritual world. There was something I read, I forget, where was it? Oh, this one, the one in the verse, what is it? Verse 2, text 2. This this one was a long verse, but the one about it talks about how and also one thing is we don't understand the temporariness of this world, this material world, the temporariness of it. So here it says, but the creation of his internal potency, the spiritual world, is not a temporary manifestation like the material world, but is eternal and full of transcendental knowledge, opulence, energy, strength, beauties, and glories. You know, so it can give you some enthusiasm about trying to get out of this material body and go back home and be totally committed to doing it in this lifetime. Because Prabhupada said you can do it in one lifetime. You can do it in one lifetime. He says one of his disciples asked him, how long would it take for us to um, go back home, back to Godhead? How can we become Krishna conscious? He said it can take a second. You can be Krishna conscious in a second, you know. But we find it difficult. I find it difficult. No, I find it difficult. But the hearing is really important. And as I go around traveling, I can see and I know that a lot of the devotees are not reading every day. They're not reading every day. And it's really important to maintain that idea of the spiritual world of Krishna and hearing all the time, you know, because at least for me, I can remember some songs I heard when I was small, when I was a child. I remember some words of even when you're a teenager, you don't forget anything that you hear. You sing it all the time. You remember it for some reason or other. But now we need to apply ourselves to hearing and remembering what we're reading about and carrying it with us all the time. There was one, I don't know if I have it, but there was one verse, something that I heard, oh, this is it, that I got when I had done another class. And this I got from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti out of his book on the Bhagavad Gita, the text 7. No, what is it? Yeah, I think it says 7 here. I forget I forget the chapter. Sorry. But it says here that the mind creates a decision to think of me. This is Krishna speaking. The mind creates the decision to think of me. The intelligence creates the determination to remain fixed in thinking of me. And he commented, he says, so dedicate your activities to me. This is from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his book. I don't have it with me. It's on the bookshelf, but I wrote this down because it stuck with me. So how are we going to remember Krishna every day? And this is what he's saying. Because the mind also, Gurudev wrote, it can be your enemy or it can be your friend. And I've seen both sides of my mind, the enemy side and the positive side. You know, I've seen both. And sometimes there's a fight. It's like, I think right now I said something about the good wolf and the bad wolf. Which one are you going to feed, you know? And you have to be like determined. No, I'm going to be determined to think of Krishna and to try to think of him every day, no matter what's happening, no matter what condition I'm in. Let me please remember Krishna, no? So we can understand, you know, everything through the association and the power that we've gotten and received, and the information and knowledge, transcendental knowledge that we received from our spiritual master. And you know, Maharaj Gurudev is still working it. I'm sure we know that. We've all had experience, you know. In my trip to Mauritius, I just came back February. It's a really, really good preaching ground. It was amazing. It was such an amazing thing. And they all want to hear about Gurudev. That's all they want me to talk about. They just wanted to hear about his pastimes, his activities. And they're disciples of Bhakti Damodar Maharaj. And I had so many experiences there where I was totally aware that Gurudev was present. Because me, how can I even be speaking if he didn't give me the power to speak? Because sometimes I wouldn't even remember what I said. And I remember sometimes he used to say, he would give a class, but then at the end he would say, well, that's not the subject I wanted to talk about, but maybe Krishna wanted me to, you know, speak like this. He would say that, you know. So I've had so much experiences of knowing that Gurudev was actually there. So in terms of this purpose, to go back here, it says the material world is not for the purpose of the Lord himself. He created it. He didn't want us to come here, but we wanted to come here. We wanted to be the ones to be God, to be the supreme controller, to think we're independent. I can do what I want. And in fact, I remember sharing one, I think it was in uh, Canto 2, it was 4 and 11. Those numbers stick in my head about asking the Lord permission to do anything. And that's what it said. If you want to do anything, you consult with the Lord. And actually, for me, praying to the Lord before I do anything in terms of thinking I'm preaching or whatever I think I'm doing, I have to pray about it. Pray for the empowerment. Pray that I can share something, you know, with the devotees. You know, because sometimes it's there's a saying that you can, you know, sometimes one person may be very, very quiet, but sometimes if you open your mouth, then you know who the person is, you know. Sometimes I may look foolish, you know. But unless I pray and understand that I'm just an instrument, I'm just an instrument in the Lord's hands. And I would like to share with the devotees and actually have the care and interest of the living entities in my mind and not be puffed up about anything I'm doing, because I'm not doing anything. The Lord is doing everything. And so it said here, they wanted the conditioned souls wanted to be controllers due to the misuse of their God-gifted minute independence. So minute means Maya or Krishna. That's minute. You can just decide one or the other. You only have two choices, you know. He gives you free will because he doesn't want to force love. Love is not forced. And there was another verse that I don't know if I talked about it the last time I spoke, but I did share it when I was in Mauritius. It's about um it's what's the verse? Is it I can't think of it. Even the canto. It might be also in Canto 2. Because I think I looked it up today. Yes, no, it's not. It's in Canto 3, actually. Oh, it's here. Let me read it. I wrote it down. Thank you, Krishna. 3:524. It's really beautiful. It's so beautiful. I may have read it, but it bears repeating all the time. 3:524. 3:524. 3. I hope I got the right one. 3:524. Is this 24? Oh, okay. This is the Lord is the supreme seer, because only by his glance did the material energy become active for cosmic manifestation. At that time, the seer was there, but the external energy over which the glance of the Lord is cast was not present. He felt somewhat insufficient, like a husband feeling lonely in the absence of his wife. And Prabhupada is saying that this is a poetic simile. It's just used poetically. The Lord wanted to create the cosmic manifestation to give another chance to the conditioned souls who are dormant in forgetfulness. So he wants us. We were created. We are eternally a part of Krishna. And our position is always to be with Krishna, because that's the reason he created us, to have loving exchanges. And the cosmic manifestation gives the conditioned souls a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. And that is its main purpose. But we didn't want it. So he created this material world. It's like when you have, the example can be given, the mother is in the kitchen cooking, and the little girl wants to come in and help. And you know she can't really cook, and all she's going to do is first make a mess, and then the mother who's trying to make something has to, like, go there and try to get her engaged. So what she does is she gives her a play stove, gives her play pots, play dishes, play instruments. So you go here and you make a cake, and the little girl can pretend, because children have real imaginations. It's like we're imagining we are controlling. So the little girl has an imagination, right? So she's thinking, I'm making a cake, I'm doing this and doing that, when she's actually making a mess. Because in this material world, especially now, it's getting messier and messier. We've only made a mess. Everything's clogged up with plastics. Every convenience that we think we've created is making another mess. Because we're not God, we cannot do it. So I was giving an example, so I'll continue that the little girl's over there thinking she's doing something nicely. And even if you have organizations that say, oh, we can make the world a better place, they don't know how to make the world a better place. Only the devotees can make the world a better place. Chanting, going out, giving the holy name, trying to preach, distribute the books about the Lord. That's what we're giving. That's how we can improve. But nobody else can improve this world because it's a mess. We see it's a mess. So, in conclusion, I just want to say, so we are so, so fortunate. So fortunate. So fortunate that the Lord even wants us back, no matter what we've done. And so, and still provides for us, sees the good in us. And that's how also we should always see the good in all the devotees. because Krishna doesn't see all the foolishness or nonsense that we may be doing or even thinking or we're doing before and have done in millions of lifetimes. He's overlooking all of that. All he's saying is, please come home. You'll be happy. You just think you're happy here. You'll be so happy, so please come home. So I'll end it here and open up for questions. It's 9:15. I'm looking at the time. I'm like, okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Mother, for sharing this wisdom with us all. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations, reflections.
Comments, criticism, suggestions, whatever.
All right. So please, you may unmute. We have quite
We'll do glorification, not criticisms.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Well,
Thank you very
we
much,
still
Mother,
have to
for
be
the-
open to criticisms as long as we know the person is giving it to help us. We should
Yeah,
be able
thank
to
you.
accept that help.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, Mother, I have one quick question. It's very interesting. You compared the human body to a car, and once you get the car out of the lot, the depreciation begins right away.
Right away.
Right away. That is so true. Everybody can relate to that. And as I'm sitting here, one time I was trying to do some cleaning, and I was standing on a ladder. So I
Vera.
kind of slipped, and
Oh.
I was
Vera.
going to fall. So I thought the height where I was standing on the ladder to the ground wasn't that high. So I said, oh, instead of falling, I can just jump. I jumped, and when I landed, I realized that I'm not the same Sahadev anymore. So we are all feeling it. But my question is that you see, in this particular material world, this part of the material world, this Earth
One
planet,
quarter.
yeah,
1/4 of the world, of the whole
of the whole
creation.
the Lord's kingdom. But just in this material universe with Lord Brahma with 4 heads, I don't know if all other planets, when the living beings are supposed to change their bodies to die and have another body, whether their death process is just like ours, because I think our process of changing our body is kind of cruel. It's so painful to watch how a person leaves his body, whether the person is self-realized or is just a conditioned soul or what have you. But is that how it happens in all other planets within this material universe? And if that is not the case, why this is the case with us? And I'm asking this because it's so painful to watch somebody dying.
I have some thinking about that because, of course, I've thought about it. I can't say I have the answers. But one thing I remember reading some time ago was that in the demigod realm, the way they know they're going to leave the body is the garlands that they wear starts fading. So they know they're going to leave their body. Now, how they leave, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's the same process or not, actually. But, still, I have seen and also heard of so many devotees who have left their body, particularly those elevated devotees. And I can take example here, say Kadamba Kanana Maharaj. Okay. um, he was still giving, just like Gurudev, still giving lectures, still trying to serve, still trying to help the living entities up until the last. And when he was speaking, you could tell that he didn't have any strength, but that he still wanted to give, So, but their consciousness, I have to speak in terms of myself, their consciousness is different from my consciousness because for me, even when I see Jayapataka Maharaj, I feel so much pain. I feel like, how can he do that? But he's not on the level that I'm on. He's higher than me. If he wasn't a pure devotee, how could he be existent still in the body? Because he's not thinking he's the body. That's the reason he can do that. But as for me, I mean, I don't know if I could do that. In fact, I've had, in fact, when I went to Mauritius, and I had gone to Mumbai to see a friend who was in the hospital. But when I was coming out of the train station in Mumbai, because I took a train, I took a flight from Mumbai to Mauritius. But when I was in Mumbai, I had taken a train from here and I fell. This is the second time. I fell in the train station because it was packed. If you're living in India, it's just like everything is always packed. Everything, wherever you go. Temple, and now the temple here too, packed. You have to navigate the crowd. And someone had come by me and they had their suitcase and it fell over and I tripped over the suitcase and I hit my knee on the cement. I couldn't walk. And the devotee who had come to pick me up, had walked ahead of me and didn't see that I had fallen, but then came back. But I couldn't hardly bend my knee. I was in a lot of pain. And this was the same knee I had fallen on before, previously. But you know what? Krishna, and this is where I see Krishna. This is why I just feel like whatever happens, Krishna's going to be there. Gurudev is going to be there. Him and his wife, they, I was staying with them. My friend had arranged that I stay with them. They took such good care of me. They had doctor come. The doctor came 3 days in a row, gave me shots. They cooked for me. They ordered medicines. They got a knee brace. They did so much for me. And it's only because of them that I'm walking now. And I see this as Krishna, because I was trying to do something for Krishna. Then Krishna comes and does something for you. You know, he comes and takes care. And now I'm able to walk. At least I can walk to the temple, which is what I wanted to do. So, and I've seen, one Mataji just left her body. She was a good friend of mine in Hillsborough, the temple where Dear Krishna, her Krishna Priya. She just left her body maybe 3 or 4 days ago. And he was saying that for her, she was happy to go because she had her illness. She had scoliosis, which makes your body kind of bend over and your spine is out of alignment. You have kind of a hump, in the back. And last 2 years were very painful for her. But I'm hearing devotees saying for her, it was very peaceful to go. It's the way we see it, it's how we see it because we have to go through the process regardless. And Guru Dev says, die before dying. And what I understand about die before dying is you better start visiting it now and not wait because it can happen any day. So it means um, accepting it and knowing that Krishna and Gurudev will be there for you, whatever happens. Yes, we may have to go through some pain, suffering, but being in this body is suffering. And we have the realization every day. We're saved because we're trying to offer service, and our life is savor. Our life is savor. If we don't have savor, I feel like if I don't have savor, what's the point of living? What's the point of staying in the body now? You know, I don't want to just be like laying and just like doing nothing. We have to have savor. That's our life. But we also, if we, this is my own personal feeling, if we hear every day about the spiritual world, if we hear every day about Krishna, if we understand that Gurudev is going to be there for us, because we know several examples where Gurudev was there for the devotee and Prabhupada was there for the devotee. So many stories. You remember when Krishna, Ranti Dev was in the hospital waiting for a heart. And Gurudev told him, don't you worry, I'll be there in the transition. He's there to help us. That's why he came to get us. So it's just like, it's like I used to say before I became a devotee, I used to say that, you know, when you're pregnant, it doesn't matter about the pain, the baby's gonna have to come out anyway. You know, it's already done. So we're already born. So we're already gonna have to die. You know, it's a done. It's a done deed.
Well, thank you so much, Mother. Well, I mean, the pain is still going to be there being a pregnant woman, and whether you like it or not, you have to give it. Now, I once apologized to Lord Brahma and Lord Krishna, and I'm again apologizing to both of them because I used to think that Lord Brahma, being a loving entity and prone to making mistakes, probably made a mistake as to how the loving entity has to live their bodies. And then later on, I realized that sometimes, if even Lord Brahma is a loving entity, whatever he does is based on what he's been asked by the Supreme Lord to do. So, in actuality, the Supreme Lord is doing. But this particular Brahma is Lord Vishnu himself. And he designed it this way. So, I'm trying to learn how to live with it. But like I said, it's very, very difficult to watch.
But you're speaking like we had nothing to do with it, right?
Mm,
It's not true.
yeah.
We wanted.
Well,
So what to say?
all right. I think Shima Varacharya Prabhu has something to share or ask. Prabhu,
Okay.
you're on mute. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Jai.
All goes to the several devotees. Okay, thank you very much. I just want to make a little contribution to Sahadi Prabhu. It's a very nice question. I want you to know that the process of leaving the body in other spheres is also the same like here. Of course, death is painful everywhere. Like Krishna says in the Gita, from the highest planet to the lowest, all are places where birth, death, and all the miseries of existence take place.
Yes.
But then, Mataji, you've already mentioned two things I wanted to say. One is the fact that our the element on the Earth planet is very heavy. The gross elements.
Mhm.
So getting attached to this element, it becomes very difficult to sever our connection with that. So that attachment to the earthly element is one of the problems. In the other spheres where they are more subtle, the transition is not as painful physically. Maybe mentally because of attachment to loved ones, but physically the transition is not physically painful the way it is here. And then it is said that one way that we have to lighten the gross elements influence on the soul is through service. Like Mataji was saying, savor. Our means is savor. So by service, intense service, gradually we will diminish the heaviness of the material elements on the soul. This is a very important point because many run away from intense service. Many run away. Many want to enjoy full life, but that's what gives us pain eventually. But when we begin to lighten the body through intense service, that really is.
Yeah, Shumara, actually, I don't know whether we lost you.
Not service meant for getting money and things like that. Intense devotional service can help us to lighten the effect of the material elements on the soul.
So right.
Gradually become light-minded, and when the transition comes, like we can see the example of Jaya Patel Maharaj and great souls like that, they are not showing any longer that much attachment to the body, and that's why they're not feeling the physical pain. Because of the intense meditation and service, they've detached their mind a lot away from the body. I wish I can communicate this better, but it is a very important point that through service, we can lighten the burden of the effect of the gross element on the soul. So we have to always look for opportunity to render intense devotional service. That is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I add something? I want to add something to what you're saying. It's true. But we also have to be trying to chant attentively. We have to be chanting attentively. We have to improve our chanting, our japa. We also have to, because what you're saying is we to lighten ourselves, we need to feed the spiritual body, not the material body. And so that means also intense chanting, like Gurudev used to chant even when he was a brahmachari, 42 rounds a day. That's why we have the japa, right? So we can lighten, we can bring out our spiritual body. Only eat prasad, don't eat outside. These things were given to us so that we can lighten bring the spirit soul out more, and not the material body, but bring the soul out. This is for at least personally, I feel is why Jai Patak Maharaj is able to do what he's doing, because he's feeding his spiritual body, not the material body. And this is why we are giving prasadam. We should only take prasadam offered, everything offered, and chant attentively and try to minimize or get rid of our anarthas. Because if we're reflective enough, we know what our anarthas are. But what you're saying is quite true. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Anyone else with something to share or ask? Well, Mother, this Uddhava story we're talking about, the Supreme Lord asked Uddhava to stay behind.
Yes.
So there must be a reason why the Supreme Lord asked Uddhava to stay behind. Uddhava would have wished to go back to the spiritual kingdom with Krishna. Krishna said, no, stay behind. Sri Ram also told Sri Hanuman to stay behind. Hanuman wanted him to go with him back to the spiritual. He said, no, stay behind and to help. How are these personalities helping living entities in this material world? How is Hanuman helping? How is Buddha helping? If the Supreme Lord asked them to stay behind, it means that he asked them to stay behind not because he wants to punish them that they should remain in this material world, but they should be here to help the devotees. So how are these great personalities helping the devotees? If you may.
I don't know about that one, but I do know that here in Vrindavan, there's so many Hanuman temples here, so many. The devotees here also worship Hanuman a lot. Any corner you go on, I don't care whether it's in Govardhan or here in Vrindavan, or even it's just a little roadside temple, small little temple. There's so many Hanuman deities here, painted orange, because you know the story of when Hanuman saw Sita putting red kumkum in her part. He asked her, "Why were you doing that?" And she told him, "Because Lord Ram likes it." You know, so then Hanuman, because he's a monkey, he went and colored his whole body with orange, red on him. You know, there's a name for it. But so whenever you go here, any place, I don't care where you go, there's always a Hanuman temple, and always he's covered in this orange. You know, they worship Hanuman too. So in terms of what he's doing, he must be having some influence. Maybe we're not feeling it, you know. And in terms of Uddhava, I can't remember whether Uddhava, no, it must have been when Krishna was on the planet when he was sent to speak to the gopis. You remember that, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it must have been before then. So there must be a purpose, but I don't know what the purpose is. I haven't read all of the Srimad Bhagavatam cantos. It could be in there, possibly, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Well, it's quite late your time, and
Yeah.
I honestly appreciate you doing this service. And today being Friday, people want to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, Her Grace, Shri KATHAMISA Devi. And well, before we bring this to a final close, I just wanted to share this with you all that KATHAMISA Devi is my big god sister, and it is by her mercy that I also became a miniature Pujari of Sri Radha Damodara in Gita Nagi, because at the time she was the chief Pujari, and by her encouragement and enthusiasm, I also became a Pujari. I don't like Pujari service because I don't know, the deities, they chastise me each and every time I misbehave, and I misbehave a lot. So,
Well, you're fortunate. You're fortunate. They're chastising you. They're giving you some attention.
yeah, I mean, they do that. I try to tell them I'm not a pure devotee, please leave me alone for a while. Oh, mother, sorry, we have Her Imperial Majesty Gail Baby here. I think she has something to say. You know,
Hare
Gail,
Krishna.
yeah,
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Mother Khatamisha.
wherever you go.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Just
Thank you
wanted
so
to
much.
say hello and let you know that I'm in the audience hearing your thoughtful class.
Oh, I'm so glad for your association. I looked forward to it. I'm like, oh, good. I'll be meeting and associating with these devotees. Association is so important.
Is your knee back 100%? yet?
Well, I won't say it's 100%, but at least I'm walking.
That's good. Well, you know, I also I appreciated that story also because I'm always having my antenna up for how Krishna transforms our negative experiences into his love, you know, and that your story was a good example of that.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's amazing. And it increases your faith.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I have my antenna up because I want my faith to be increased in that regard. So I always
Mm.
appreciate hearing these transformative type stories. How he, you know, these rainbow in the clouds type stories. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
So
you.
much.
thank you.
And in fact, I
Thank
actually
you.
wanted to say something in regards to those devotees who help take care of you. It's so encouraging and something worth trying to emulate, caring for others. So we thank those devotees so much. And I was reflecting on something very relevant Maya Angelou said. Maya Angelou said, somebody may say this or do that to us, we may never remember, but how they made us feel, we can never forget. So if we can make people feel good about themselves, that would be very impactful. And this is what they stated that, as you were sharing, it's impossible for you to forget how they cared for you. And this is
Yeah.
the Sri Prabhupada is stated Gurudev also
Yeah.
imparted us, and we
Yeah.
hope we can follow such wonderful service to
Right.
So devotees, like we said, you may all unmute and we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Sansakarpa Taridachar, Srivastacha, Nabhyo, Namo Namaha. Jai, Jai, Jai,
Hare Krishna,
Jai,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Haribo.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bo.
All right, devotees. Oh, sorry, Hare Krishna.